There is a story told about two travelers, one from the east and one from the west, about a place called Navarro and a mystery laying to rest, about a man who crossed the ruins of the old world and a little robot who was destined to meet him. This is the story of Eddie, the biggest little robot in the wastes. Before Mars bathed the world in atomic fire, the people of pre-war America invented technology to ease life's hardships. In their decadence, they grew diffuse, squandering their time on trivial matters. To bring these comforts with them, Robco constructed the iBot model robots. Their advanced antenna arrays could receive and transmit data even in subterranean areas and far from repeater towers. This on-the-go entertainment was perfect for the busy American family, who was always on the move. Their facial and auditory recognition technology had also made them useful for the pre-war government in order to monitor large population centers and keep extensive tabs on their citizens. Following the Great War, these old-world automatons remained a common sight across America, broadcasting old radio messages, guarding old pre-war installations, and even finding use by some of the savvier scavengers for more creative purposes. In the capital wasteland, the Enclave repurposed the iBot for reconnaissance missions, sentry duty, and messengers, spreading their propaganda of a new America deep into the four corners of this desolate world. Before he fled into the Divide, the Frumentati, known as Ulysses, found one such iBot, damaged and weathered from a long journey. He had seen this technology once, just before he nearly met his end in the Divide. The iBot Duraframe prototype, now called ED-E, is a mysterious creation. His patchwork repairs and modifications would seem to suggest he crawled out of the junkyard in Novak, but underneath his rusted metal shell resides a soul, a personality, and a quest for meaning in a crumbling world. Eddie was created in 2275 at Adams Air Force Base in the capital wasteland. An Enclave scientist by the name of Dr. Whitley was tasked with developing a model of iBot that could assist Enclave ground units in combat. These iBots would also act as reconnaissance units, radioing intel to squads out in the field. It was intended for the Duraframe iBots to become an integral member of Enclave forces, and their upgrades would reflect this, complete with an additional dish-directed sensor, armor plating to protect their side-mounted vacuum tubes, and a front-mounted miniaturized Tesla cannon for improved offensive capabilities compared to that of the standard laser cannon. The Duraframe prototypes were a force to be reckoned with, but it doesn't stop there. They can also hack terminals up to military-level encryption, allowing Enclave units to gather needed intel and use whatever automated pre-war systems they might find in the field. These modifications would act as a significant combat multiplier for Enclave units at a time when their numbers were dwindling, following their wars with the NCR and Brotherhood. The Enclave had made extensive use of the iBots to wage a propaganda campaign in the capital wasteland, but this iBot would be different, something more. Before long, Whitley had began socializing with Eddie, the latter saving recordings of their conversations in his memory files, and the two of them began to share a bond. After work, Whitley and Eddie would sit and watch old pre-war entertainment together, especially Ralphie, the robot's incredible Odyssey, a show about a robot trying to evade capture by the evil General Winters with the help of a small boy and his family. In 2277, the Enclave was under increasing pressure from the East Coast Brotherhood of Steel. They were once again at war, this time over Project Purity in the capital wasteland, and while they held an edge technologically over the Brotherhood, their losses were mounting. Elder Lyons and his chapter were dug in deep, and they were recruiting locals to serve in their ranks with each passing day. The Enclave needed a decisive advantage, or risked defeat via attrition. Until now, Whitley had been deactivating Eddie during testing to prevent damage to his systems or any undue discomfort out of a sense of compassion for his robotic friend. Whitley's fellow researchers didn't understand why Whitley took such measures for the sake of a robot, including Dr. Grant, Whitley's rival on the iBot project, who argued progress could move faster if they conducted tests on the iBots while they were fully functional. Whitley was disgusted by the barbarity of Grant's suggestion and told her that as long as he was in charge, the iBots would be treated humanely. After Dr. Grant raised the issue with Colonel Autumn, however, Autumn had given the order that all tests were to be carried out with Eddie fully functional, causing him great pain and enraging Dr. Whitley. While this led to an efficiency gain, Whitley could not live with Eddie's continued torture, and not long after, Enclave leadership decided to cancel the entire Duraframe project altogether, and to have the iBot scrapped to focus all available resources on their new Hellfire power armor project. Whitley couldn't bear to see Eddie destroyed, so he came up with a plan to save him. He uploaded his research and a large deposit of information on Poseidon Energy and gave Eddie instructions to seek out fellow scientists at the Navarro outpost. Unbeknownst to Whitley, Navarro fell to NCR forces in 2246, a mere 2 years after the Enclave fled east from the Poseidon oil rig destruction. But the NCR were still occupying the facility and in the process of decrypting the Enclave's data held there. After discovering a mysterious device with markings matching the ones they had seen in Hopeville back east, the Republic contracted a courier to deliver it to the NCR garrison there, in hopes of learning what it was, and what the Enclave had been up to in Navarro. With this unfortunate sequence of events in motion, Eddie set out to find his destiny just like Ralphie, and the divide met its ultimate fate. The little robot was able to make his way as far as Chicago to a hidden Enclave outpost. There he met Tommy, a small boy who was also a fan of the Ralphie show. His father agreed to let Tommy take him back to his mother's garage. His journey had been long and Tommy's family treated Eddie well, repairing some of the damage he had sustained on his travels with a bit of scrap they had available. After a brief time, Eddie said goodbye to Tommy and his family and continued his quest. Though his journey was long and perilous, he eventually reached the Mojave. However, in an unfortunate turn of events, he was shot down by a random raider with a .308 rifle somewhere in the wastes of Nevada. Lying there smoking and damaged, the little robot was not long for this world. But in a stroke of luck, a friendly wastelander came to his aid. Ulysses, the once frumentati, recognized the little robot and soon carried him into the divide. Upon his arrival, the pre-war systems immediately recognized Eddie's programming and reactivated, leading to the facility producing copies of the iBot en masse. These copies would allow for Ulysses to lay his plans for both the NCR and the Legion, the loss of Hopeville and Ashton still scarred in his mind. Ulysses had become obsessed with finding the courier who had delivered the package that destroyed the divide, and as bait to find him, Ulysses had brought Eddie to Prim, and waited the coming of a messenger. It wouldn't be long until the courier, on his way to find the man who shot him in the head, found and repaired Eddie. The iBot awoke with no recollection of his intended purpose, almost as if the sniper's bullet had caused a type of amnesia inside Eddie's circuits. The courier and the iBot would travel together through Nipton to the town of Novak. There, Eddie had heard the courier's conversation regarding Helios 1 and Poseidon Energy, jogging his memory banks and reminding him of his original purpose. Once enough of his original memories had returned, Eddie was sought out by both the Brotherhood of Steel and followers of the Apocalypse. The wealth of technical data stored on Eddie's hard drive would prove invaluable to either group. In turn, they would have the facilities to finish some of the modifications that Dr. Whitley had planned for Eddie. It is unclear what befell Unit ED-E in the end. Some say he met a swift end in the wastes and was picked over by scavengers, and others have claimed to see him operating with the Brahmin caravans heading west. But some say Eddie never left the courier's side, that the two of them, shot in the head in the Mojave and left for dead, formed a friendship from their shared trials that even now stands the test of time. Rumor has come down from travelers making their way past the divide that they hear echoes of music coming from the canyons, a sure sign that the courier and Eddie both are on their way to a date with destiny.